Hi everybody, this is Pius Mushiri Mugo, the Managing Director of Noble Capital. We are here at the Nairobi Garage. I think you need to come and visit this place to just understand why I'm so excited about the Nairobi Garage. Today we have a very interesting guest. We've never had a guest like this one before, so just stay tuned in and you'll get to know more about our guest. Richard Howe.
Correct. Good to meet you, Piers.
As you can see, I'm very careful how I pronounce your second name.
It's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one.
Thank you for getting it right.
Exactly. So, Richard, I think before we say a lot and we have a lot to discuss, I just want to know, who is Richard? Everybody wants to know, who is Richard Howe?
Well, Richard Howe's, I'm Chief Executive of ALP, and I've spent, this year marks 15 years working in warehouse and distribution centre developments in emerging markets, and I spent the last 3 years of those in Kenya, helping set up ALP and getting the company to where it is at the moment, which we think is a very exciting place. We've made a lot of progress, and we're very excited about the future for our company and for logistics and supply chain in East Africa generally.
15 years in warehousing and logistics. That tells me that this can only be something that you're very passionate about.
It's true. I mean, people sort of look at you strangely when you say you're passionate about warehousing. It's not like working in Hollywood. But it's, I do think it's a great asset class for investment, and I do think it's an asset that not only makes very good business, but actually genuinely improves the lives of people in emerging markets. You know, supply chains, systems, warehousing, it all sounds very background, very banal, but actually those things make a big difference to the quality of life of people who live in East Africa. If you've got good supply chains, good logistics, then the price of goods and the range of goods that normal Kenyans enjoy get much better than if those things aren't present. So yes, we're here in business, but it's nice to be producing something that you think actually pushes the quality of life for everybody forward.
And we'll come back into understanding why warehousing. But just to talk more about yourself, I mean, how did you find yourself in this business of warehousing? I was looking at your profile. You used to be an accountant.
I am. Well, yes, that's right. I call myself an lapsed accountant. That's true. I was an accountant, but I mean, I've worked in various different property classes for, well, pretty much ever since I qualified, actually. So I've worked in UK residential property, and I've worked in some commercial property in Europe, and a number of other things. But the opportunity came up, as I said, about 15 years ago to help start a new business, which was a warehouse business in Russia. And the Soviet Union didn't have any warehousing at all. They were all factory to shop, which was incredibly inefficient. So you had a developed economy with a very high level of sophistication in many regards, but had no warehousing at all. So as a property entrepreneur, it was a fantastic opportunity to enter that market, and a great team to do it. So it was an opportunity to grow a business very quickly and to learn a great deal about warehousing and how it works in new markets, and how it works generally. And as you say, I never look back, really. It's having learned more and more about that asset. It's an asset class that I do passionately believe in, both from a property business perspective, but also generally as a part of building a working society. So, it's something that I'm really pleased I discovered at that point in my career.
So when you're practicing accounting, you're practicing in a property company. Somehow found yourself doing
my pretty much my first job outside of the accounting profession was for a UK conglomerate which did construction, commercial property investment, and housing. So I worked for them. Then I went and worked for Wimpy, which was a big, and still is a big UK house builder. And then I worked for a company called Swan Hill, which you won't have heard of because it doesn't exist anymore, but it was again in high-end residential development. And then that company got bought by a bunch of guys, very entrepreneurial guys who wanted to turn that business around. And I worked with them for a couple of years. And then they said, well, do you want to carry on working with us? I said, yeah, no, we really like each other. They said, well, we're going to go to Russia. And the guy who ran it, a guy called Anton Bilton, who's a terrific guy, said to me, well, go to Russia for to arrest you for 6 weeks and do this one deal for me. And I stayed for 11 years. And I've never regretted it for a minute. It was a great experience, terrific experience.
Thank you for touching Russia, because for me, it was a surprise discovery about yourself. I mean, how many people have had to practice their careers in Russia?
Well, I think,
how was
it's an enormous economy.
Yes.
And great people. The weather's not as good as East Africa, I have to say, but full of opportunities and never dull. So it was, and as I said, you've got to grow a business from. We went there, it was just sort of a bunch of mad Englishmen and a pile of institutional money. And at the end of it, we developed over 2 million square meters of warehousing. So we did a lot in 11 years.
And that's a lot of space.
It is a lot of space.
A lot of space. And
but as I said, there was an enormous opportunity, an enormous gap.
I see. So was it a successful venture?
It was. I mean, in Russia, when you're dealing with a country which has quite a lot of political risk attached to it, and you also had to go through a sort of Lehman crisis, and then obviously we had the crisis that the whole Ukraine situation prompted. So it was a roller coaster. But I mean, the business at the end, made a lot of money for its shareholders, and as I said, it produced an enormous platform at the moment, which is still there. The company is still listed on London Stock Exchange and paying a very good dividend and return to its shareholders while it does it. So, I'd have to say it was a success.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely had an impact on you, because now you're in East Africa, doing the same warehousing. So let's talk about ALP, Africa Logistics Property.
That's right.
It began in 2016.
So an ex-colleague of mine from Raven, Toby, met up with one of our current shareholders, Maris, and Toby was looking for somewhere where he felt there was a business opportunity for, again, a gap where you could fill with modern warehousing. And his view was that Kenya was exactly that sort of opportunity. You had a country which had an emerging middle class. It had a consumer society that was being built, but the existing stock of warehousing was very poor. It was poor in terms of specification, and it was in a part of town which was very congested and poorly served in many ways. So he saw an opportunity there to install modern warehousing. Nothing revolutionary. These are buildings which have been built in all sorts of markets in Russia, but also in India, Vietnam, as well as all the developed economies in the world. So you're not talking about something that's never been done before. These buildings have built and worked in all parts of the globe. And the gap between what was on Mombasa Road and still is on Mombasa Road and what those buildings can deliver is quite large. So the view then was that created a very big opportunity. So Toby phoned me in Russia and said, "I'm going to do this," and I said, "Okay, I'll come and do it."
You guys had met earlier? You knew each other before?
Toby worked for Raven as well. Toby worked for Raven nearly as long as I did. He worked for about 8 years. So we are old friends and old pals for that.
Okay.
And Maris put in a little bit of money to allow us to put down deposits on the first 2 sites, which I know we're going to talk about later, one at Tattoo and one at Talisi. And then having done that, they then approached a bunch of institutional shareholders, CDC, the IFC, DOB Equity, a number of other sort of institutional shareholders, and said, we obviously need to raise, because it's quite a capital intensive business.
It is.
You need a fair amount of money. We want to do this. We think this is the business opportunity. We've identified these two, we think, 2 good sites. And we want to use that as a platform to then to roll out to the rest of East Africa and possibly Africa beyond that. And so, to cut a long story short, in March 2017, they raised $60 million from those investors as equity. And we then started work on our first scheme at Tattoo. And 2017, and we finished the first buildings in slightly earlier, September 2018, so about a year later.
1 year later.
1 year later.
Yeah.
The first 2 buildings there, which delivered about 30,000 square meters of space.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate in that we had tenants for both those buildings, one building in its entirety, and Copia took a big chunk out of the second building.
Yeah.
So very quickly we were then able to go on and build another 20,000 square meters at
Yeah.
T2,
Yeah.
which means that scheme is now construction and
Yeah.
complete. So we've now moved the emphasis onto the second scheme.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. You are moving quite quick because 2016 the idea comes in. 2017 you have $60 million. 2017 you have your first completion. That's quite
it is. I mean,
an exciting.
I think there's a number
right.
there's a number of factors that drive that.
Yeah.
One is, I think, one of the reasons I like warehousing and as an asset class is the development cycle is quite short. They're not the most complex buildings. You're not building 5-star hotel.
Just
You're
space.
not building a hospital.
Yeah.
So as long as you've got the land and permits and everything else in place, the actual construction duration is not huge.
I see.
So in terms of managing your risk cycle, it's much easier to do that with a warehouse than it is to say a hotel.
But even fundraising to close $60 million within a year, that was quite an achievement.
Yeah, well, I think everyone involved was very stressed, but I think it speaks to how compelling the actual sort of idea was in terms of people could see that opportunity was there. And as I said, I mean, if you went to India 15 years ago. There wouldn't be many of those buildings now. If you go to India now, there are many, many warehouses and many, many more being built. And the same if you look at other developing markets.
Yeah.
It's not something, it's innovative for this part of the world, but it's not an innovative idea in itself. It's a proven technology, it's a proven business idea. So in that respect, I think it has lots of appeal for investors.
Yeah. I want us to take a pause there. But what my key takeaway was, Toby saw an opportunity. He pulled his friend, and now you have 2 projects in warehousing.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking more about warehousing. If you are curious to know about this opportunity in warehousing, please stay tuned in.